the way United States exists today, it's an existential enemy of Russia. Simple as that. So all those things which on the Trump's side, all those moves, we're not talking about in relation to Europe. In relation to Europe, it's sheer accounting, pure accounting and bookkeeping, if you wish. Trump being, for some reason, he thinks himself as a genius in terms of getting deals. But in terms of Russia, it's very simple. That is why Mr. Trump doesn't get any success, because the Russians, they repeat ad nauseam. And it's in the latest statement of Vladimir Putin yesterday, after the talk with Mr. Trump, that, it's fine. But until the root causes are removed, special military operation continues. Simple as that. But Trump, being a showman, they changed dynamics in the sense that, it's good to talk, make no mistake. I am all for it, and diplomacy has to return. But no, Russia will be absolutely under sanctions. Nothing will be restored of substance. And his task now is to save the face somehow. But he could have done it 3 weeks ago by saying it's Biden's war, and that's it. He didn't do it. And no matter what Trump does, he still remains the enemy of Russia. Russian people, and it's strategically cannot be changed with the present-day American establishment. So you have to have the new generation of the American politicians and maybe the statesmen which will emerge from this generation, which will understand essentially the utility of that. And in fact, the very dangerous situation. He talks a lot about it, but he continues basically the Biden policy just with a little bit of tweaking it here and there, trying to continue on the same path, essentially. Good luck, as I already said. So it is all diplomatic game Russians play, which is good. Make no mistake, it's better to talk than to fight. But it's all about Trump's show. He needs to save face now. He made this war his war. And now, no matter what he tries, there's no ceasefire. Russians anticipated fully that Ukraine will break any kind of deals. They broke it today, attacking some, by the way, belonging to Chevron distribution station for the gas. They were able to hit one of the reservoirs of those things where that's about it. The Russians recognized immediately. They were laughing all over the place. But there is a nuance, and let's not go there. And so even that thing, which was essentially pretty symbolic, is gone now. So the special military operation continues and will continue until all objectives are met. And objectives are those elimination of those root causes. What are the root causes? Root causes are described with some adjustments after the December 2021 granted for the adjustment for the realities on the ground, the tactical and operational ones, is that, there is a NATO expansion. There are all kinds of nasty things which are done to Russia, including sanctions. Russians have no illusions whatsoever. Literally, an hour before his talk to Trump yesterday, Mr. Putin was speaking to the Russian Union of the Investors and Entrepreneurs, and he told them, I quote, "Don't hope that any sanctions will ever be lifted. We will continue to live under sanctions non-stop." So there you go. The question is how Trump tries to save his face now. He needs to save his face. Remember, he was running on this, if not for me, there would have been no war. Actually, it was on his watch when the arming and training of the armed forces of Ukraine started in earnest. It became an industry. And he promised what? Remember? I will stop the war in 24 hours, then we'll stop the war in 100 days. People are asking inevitable and totally legitimate questions. And how is this 24 hours going? How about now those weeks, which are already months, right? He was what? Today is the 20th. It's 2 months now since he took the office, all right? So what's next? Half a year? Sure, Russians will gladly oblige. But the outcome inevitably is the same as it was from the get-go. The total military and geopolitical defeat of the United States, because it was the United States which was the main driver behind their essentially starting the whole mess in 2013 with the coup and bringing to power. So there you go. And nothing changed, really. And it was also his ideas about that you can pressure Russia while obviously talking all this fluffy rhetoric about, oh, yeah, let's get along with Russians. No, he wanted to get along only on his conditions. Doesn't work like this with Russia. It is all about, it's just all those PR outwardly appearances, which still important, make no mistake. As I already stated, I'm not against that. But nature of the conflict, it never changed. So the United States will continue to military support and provide ISR to armed forces of Ukraine. One of the key points which Vladimir Putin stated straight to not to face, maybe they were communicating over the video link, that how about you stop the all aid to Ukraine? No, United States is not going to do it. Already in January this year, Vladimir Putin reiterated that there will be no ceasefire, there will be no short-term stopping of the hostilities. And the only thing which will happen is that only when Russia's long-term historic objectives of the Russian security will be met, then we may talk. So it was already this year, January 25. The only reason for that, as I already stated, was to avert a catastrophe for the armed forces of Ukraine, because front is collapsing. It's actually the fact when you look attentively at the speed with which everything is developing. And the second is to put some kind of PR trap for Russians. We agreed now on ceasefire. Now Russia doesn't agree on ceasefire, so they want war. Sure, as already stated, top Russian officials already came out and said, sure, do whatever you want. We're going to do what we need. So they do it to the point that Mr. Peskov came out yesterday and stated, don't listen to all this Western media, the noise of all those experts. Listen and read only official statements by the officials of Russian Federation, because the rest of it is there's nothing more than they sell the garbage, as they always do, to Western public, and yeah, they are brainwashed, and so it's easy to manipulate them. But as I don't know how many times it has to be repeated. I don't know. It's just like you repeat, obviously, media and all those guys ignore it. Mr. Rubio said today that they sent those things, details to Russia, of those so-called agreement between Ukraine and United States. But the point is there are two factors. First, Russians demolished, finally finished off the whatever was left in Kursk area. So the Kursk is being liberated, so is liberated today, so it's over. And now Russian troops are in Sumy region. They are also in the Petrovsk region. So, and yeah, the special military operation continues. This is first factor. Second factor, anticipated, expected by anybody who had any brain, failure to split Russia from China or China from Russia. Simple as that. What's left? Nothing. So what can they do? They can do what they do, PR. The only decisions on Russia's actions are happening in Russia. All these ideas that they can somehow press Russia into doing something it's the general intellectual level, low intellectual level on the combined West side. And what can I say? Yeah, let them play in their sandbox. The special military operation continues and will continue until pretty much all objectives are met. And now it's really good that this ambiguity is gone. We know who Trump is, what his plan, or rather lack thereof, is, and it's good because there will be, you cannot trust Americans, you cannot negotiate with them, so it's all BS. And this is good. Two factors influence this decision, which is, of course, the show. First, you have to understand, even when you look at the fate of Kellogg, but the point is two factors influence this idiotic decision, because nothing is going to come out of it, as Zakharova and Kosachev, Mr. Kosachev stated, what you can say whatever they want, there will be no ceasefire. I don't know how many times Vladimir Putin or Sergei Lavrov have to repeat the same thing, but yeah, these people, as I already say, kindergarten. But the problem is that the West is not the West anymore. And it cannot produce any more other than some garbage like unnecessary functions on the iPhone, which is still produced in China. And all those things which they thought they were leading the world, they are not leaders there anymore. And as the result, when you look at the Eurasian landmass, with the exception of Europe, China is interested in Europe merely as the market. China is gigantic commercial power. And obviously, China is interested in the markets, make no mistake. We're all talking about capitalism. Russians are interested in markets. It's a foundation of the geopolitics. But you can have markets by developing them, not exploiting them in the classical colonialism way, when you essentially bring the cheap labor, cheap resources to metropolis, and you do things in metropolis and sell it back to colonies. No, you want the markets developed there because it brings up their general prosperity. You don't need West. It's completely self-contained system which provides energy, provides technological development, education, all kinds of things. And that is the thing which lives in now in parallel. Remember Trump, which cannot allow anybody bypass dollar. What are you going to do about it? Attack China? Good luck with that. Do you want to attack Russia? See what's going to happen. And that's the whole point. Suddenly they recognize that they are beginning to be sidelined. And the question is now, do they have resources to continue to be that West which it used to be? No. They failed militarily. Militarily, its record is pathetic, with the exception, of course, that it was Western civilization, which started European civilization to devastating world wars, more than 70 million people, and obviously all kinds of, and that's it. And this is what, for example, what is called today global South understand. Because obviously, if you look at how it was developed under the combined West, make no mistake, there have been some positive. I do not want to completely discard the positive influence of the West on the rest of the world. We live in the world which was shaped by the Western civilization. Everything from mathematics to physics. Obviously, some civilizations prior to that contributed mightily. We talk about, obviously, Oriental civilization. We talk about the initial Islamic civilization contributing from Armi, who invented algebra and things of this nature. Yeah, but their Western contribution to their modern civilization is absolutely overwhelming, from their administration, sciences, arts, what have you. And we live in this world. Once you created this, that's the end of the civilization, because you turned out to be nothing more than essentially vulture. And they still thought that they can live like vulture. You can't, because now you have this huge land mass, with a gigantic population, which can completely on its own continue to do everything from their fundamental scientific research to space programs. Russians and the Chinese are going to build a station on the moon. And it just, you look at this, oh my God. And then when they have this curtain of reality lifting in front of their eyes, and what they see, they are in shock. But it was developing there, and yeah, you can take a look at what Russians do in terms of rolling stock transportation. They don't need Siemens. They've been doing this for the last 20 years. It's just that nobody took note because they were so arrogant and ignorant. So in this case, what's the role of Europe especially? It's a secondary, it's a relatively little peninsula of the Eurasian landmass, which essentially will fall off as the center of any kind of the progressive, not progressive in the Western, but progressive for development of the human civilization thought. There's nothing there. And when you look at it, it's absolutely barren land of the basically politicians. And again, make no mistake, there is a very huge distinction between being a politician and being a statesman. West doesn't produce statesmen. They produce only childish politicians. And we saw it with the GDAP. There you go. That's what this all about. Macron is on the service of Rothschild's family, and that's who he is. He knows nothing about anything. So goes for the French military, and they have independent nuclear deterrent, which is basically they inherited from the true French statesman General de Gaulle. There are no de Gaulles in France, none, not even close. So industrially, it's a midget, really. They have few industries in which they excel. For example, Airbus, obviously, which still is joint venture, so to speak, they do make decent engines. They can produce like 30 Rafales in like over 7 years. That's pretty much what they can do. They have a decent shipyards in Saint Nazaire, and they can build a nuclear submarine. The rest of it is just they don't have resources to do anything, let alone to have their. And when you look at this whole thing, is I don't know what they're thinking. And if anybody thinks that Germany can do anything about it, they are, I have to tell them, wake up and look at the date today, which is, of course, 2025. And Germany is being deindustrialized with incredible speed. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. And you look at this, who else? There's nothing. UK doesn't have own nuclear deterrent. It has the platforms, but Trident 2 G5 missiles belong to, they lease them from the United States, and they cannot launch them without the United States. Do you remember when the last time they tested ballistic missile, which they carry on their lateral fund nuclear powered submarines, strategic missile submarines? I don't. If somebody can point me out to say, oh yeah, they tested it, and it, like Russians test them, launch them practically every year, and you look at this and they don't have, they're midgets. They cannot produce anything which is adequate for the warfare of the 21st century. These are all legacy weapons. They're ASMP, whatever the name of their stupid missile, with a range of 300 kilometers. It's nuclear. You stick one on Rafale and it becomes their new strategic nuclear weapon. That's how they call it. It's not strategic. It's nuclear, but it's not strategic. So Europe is exposed. They are nobodies, and they have to admit and accept their fate and do what the United States tells them to do. And the United States will tell them to themselves, because the United States needs to do it too. So that's how it works. And so when there's a talk about denuclearization and Europe playing role, there's no nuclear umbrella in Europe. France are militarily impotent. Their nuclear deterrent size-wise compared to Russian is Russia dwarfs or order of magnitude, probably 2 orders of magnitude in its capability. Europe is irrelevant. They are puppies. They are chihuahuas. They are little dogs which will run to the feet of their master and wiggle their tails. I'm quoting Putin. Talking about Europe is not even serious matter, because these are impotent countries militarily, and they are declining industrially. When you look attentively at the pace of the deindustrialization of Europe, it's especially Germany, but not only Germany. When you look attentively at UK, it is a tragedy developing there, basically. It's horrible, okay? But in terms of Europe, they are chihuahuas. They're at the feet of their master because they are scared crapless with Trump. And they will continue to perform some kind of their coordination with the United States. But again, the plan, if you can call it plan, is very simple. It is all primarily for internal consumption. And Trump, being a narcissist and flamboyant hot air balloon, he needs to feel himself important in some kind of the proceedings which are happening on the global level. And as I already stated, Ukraine being a military defeat for NATO and United States. But yeah, these are Europeans. They're not very rebel. I don't buy it for a second. They will continue to vote for whatever they are told to vote for, except for Romanians. When we see now what is happening in Romania. The people, those people, be them in DC or in Brussels or what have you, they have no integrity, honor. Don't talk about it. They are basically creeps, and they will do everything they can. The only thing they do is spin, PR. Okay, Russians don't care about PR. Russians already defeated NATO, and what can I say? They have this installation in Romania. They have the same installation in Poland. But as I already stated, those systems are obsolete. They are not designed to operate within the environment of the strategic and operational strategic hypersonic weapons. They can intercept nothing. So they are primarily destabilizing factor, and basically propaganda thing to, you have to understand. Politicians in Poland or Romania are not very bright people, as they are pretty much everywhere. They don't understand military affairs. They don't understand how it relates to the security. They just know, oh yeah, give us this thing, and we think that this thing gonna work. It's not gonna work. But yeah, they like to have it, and plus it's a good business for some people. But yeah, it's, how to say it, those installations, they are not survivable in case of a real conflict. because they know they are not complete idiots there. Okay, there are professionals there, American military professionals who are good level professionals who understand the game, that the first thing they get in case of the, God forbid, some kind of the conflict, they have about 10 minutes. After that, Kinjal flies in, and you not survive. Nobody can survive Kinjal, and they cannot intercept it. They can do nothing about it. They probably, if they have their cruise missiles, they will be able to launch them. But that's after that they have to run immediately because they will be dead. And that's what they have there. There's what they have there is the Devasalo. Devasalo is their base for their what's called Aegis Ashore. It's nothing more Aegis Ashore than Spy 1D radar with all this combat information control system, which essentially you can literally, it even looks like the superstructure of the Ticonderoga class cruisers of the US Navy. You stick this active phased array, active electronically scanned phased array, you stick literally naval Mk-41 vertical launch systems there, and whatever you load there, that's why Russia was worrying about this, is that you can load the SM-6 and SM-2 missiles, which are air defense and anti-ballistic missiles like SM-2, but you can load there obviously Tomahawks and some kind of nuclear weapons there, cruise missile. So that was the main worry. Can they place a nuclear weapon there? Not. They better not. They know it's going to be casus belli. And as I already stated, the background factor, which very few are talking about, they wanted to split Russia from China. Didn't work. And as it should. And the more they will be spinning, the more they will be requiring of the abolition of the democratic institution and democratic control. And yeah, the media, all those Times, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, New York Times, Washington Post, they are already mean it true. We are 1 foot already in 1984. Eventually, they will have to close the borders and close any kind of the information coming from, for example, East and from Russia. So that is why Peskov essentially saying yesterday, that's what is this all about. Don't read it. Don't listen. Listen to what, if you want to know what is happening in Russia, listen to the official statements. Because Russians follow their statements. They state the policy, they make policy statements. And this is the fate of combined West because it has been defeated already. The fate of Ukraine is the fate of Europe, essentially, in the future, because they have nobody who can actually change the course. And in this case, they can spin and brainwash their people wherever they want, and especially considering the European conformism, which they love to their media. They really believe that. So British read their tabloids, Germans think as they told by whatever, the Bild and what have you. Majority, at least, not all, but majority. Yeah, they will be told that, oh yeah, we won. They invented their offensive by running backwards. Ukraine went on offensive. Now where's Ukraine? And that's what is this all about? Spin. That's the only thing they can. But what many people do not know, and we spoke about this, I obviously get invited into Russian media too. And when we spoke to our friends about a couple months ago, the actually directive for the Russian army is very clear. Prepare for the 2025 being the final year of the hostilities because everything needs to be finished off. So the 2025 is the year of the war for Russians, and they will continue to do what they're doing, whatever the remains of Ukraine. And again, each time Putin says something, the conditions much tougher than they were previously. Previously, they need this 30 days desperately to regroup them primarily, maybe to provide some military assistance, and that's about it. They again, don't forget, they have about 160,000 18-year-olds, which they still can draft, and then throw them into mid-grinder, which will continue the agony of the combined West slightly longer. And Russian troops already recorded, and this is confirmed, not only 18 years old in Kursk, they're 14 years old. There you go. Well, they ready to fight to the last Ukrainian. Russia will oblige. But that tells you everything you need to know about that you cannot negotiate with the United States. There is no good faith. And as always, we cheated, we lied, we stole, as Mr. Pompeo once said it. That's exactly what it is. So Trump administration is no different. And this is good. And I agree, this is kindergarten, childish behavior, but that's what they are. They always were for the last, 30 years. The times of the responsible statesmen and people who could make proper decisions are over for the combined West, and we will see. Listen, when we talk about that the West is over, it's not because we are doing it on a whim or we want to say it. All indicators are in place, and practical actions and actually events, they prove it unequivocally. So there you go. Yes, kindergarten, that's what it is. Gotcha. So, okay, sure. Although in this particular case, as strange as it may sound, he acts and his administration acts based on, for the first time, probably the real intelligence, which of course, once you have Tulsi Gabbard in place, which she is, and she is a responsible woman, and she is, I think so, she's good for her job. And when the real intelligence starts to pour in with the real kill ratios and what is happening, paradox of this thing is because they act this, because this time they have the real intelligence. And real intelligence tells them what is happening. And as I already stated, the only mobilization reserve Ukraine has is about 160,000 of those 18-year-old kids. The rest of men have been basically. So they fit into the meat grinder. They will continue to fit into meat grinder. And after that, we will see if they will endure as, which I don't think so, because it's going to be a primarily agrarian country. And while whatever will be the Black Sea coast and like Kharkov, which is traditional Russian city, including, and Dnepropetrovsk, former Yekaterinoslav, and Novorossiya. Putin uses this term Novorossiya non-stop. But because they are morons in State Department and in media, in this establishment media, they don't even understand significance of that. You go, and I did even the video on that. You go and look up what Novorossiya is, what it was, starting from Catherine the Great. It's all in Kharkov, Dnepropetrovsk, Odessa. Putin talks about it openly. But again, those people, they do not understand anything pretty much on any issue. And that is why they continue their game, as you correctly stated, it's childish. They will continue war against Russia. Russia will essentially rebuild political system in Kiev. Whatever will be left, there will be some little bit of oblast, if you wish, regions, which will be left under direct, so to speak, Kiev's control. They will redo the political system in such a way that it is both sufficient enough to preserve the rights of the Russian speakers, and that essentially through all kinds of their governmental institutions, including, for example, Department of Education. So that will be removed completely. But the problem is, of course, not a problem, actually. The outcome is preset or preordained already because they don't have resources. They don't have military expertise, and they don't have resources to fight it. The United States, for some reason, thinks that they can fight China. Economically, they can't. China is simply overwhelmingly larger economy today. And they thought that, okay, let's split China and Russia. And all those resources, which will be free by charming Russians. Russians are not idiots. They are much more, how to say it, educated and experienced in the matters of diplomacy. And this is not to say anything particularly offensive, but Russian general staff is older than the United States as a country. You just look at this. Yeah, they had this happy decade of 1990s where they could manipulate with Russia, and they had the corrupt and utterly treasonous Russians, so-called Russian elites. And obviously, as I already stated in the beginning, their key plan that Trump thought that he's so irresistible and shiny that Russians will just absolutely love him. United States tried to use the carrot, so to speak, on Russians, which of course was futile, and that split from China. That United States remains the existential enemy of Russia. Even Mr. Lavrov stated that when speaking to Judge and Larry, that there were very little in common now with the United States and Russia. Obviously, Western media, who are nothing more than propaganda outlets, though they're media whores, literally, because they, There's nothing, no law they cannot stoop to. They will continue to spin that. But reality is, as I already stated, it's as Mr. Kosachov stated, all negotiations are happening on the front lines, period. As I constantly repeat Joe in line, famous rephrasing of Clausewitz and dictum, that diplomacy is the continuation of the war by other means. And in this case, the foundation of Russian diplomacy are operations by Russian armed forces, which obviously destroyed not just Ukraine. Many people still do not understand. It is war between NATO and Russia. Trump had the chance to disown this war. He didn't. It's his war now. It's America's war, and it continues. So yeah, it's all about preserving some kind of the what is called Platzdarm, the stronghold, if you beachhead, if you wish, to pump it with eventually weapons and terrorists and use it against Russia. That's what it is. That's just euphemisms. That's what they do. They BS. They use all those basically word speak, if you wish, to cover up what Russians know. Russians are not idiots, and that is why, as already Russian establishment, or political establishment, top political establishment reacted, there will be no ceasefire until Ukraine is completely demilitarized and conditions are known. And some, even during the Istanbul meetings in 2022, it was very clear. At that time, Russia said, oh, you may have 70,000 armed forces, lightly armed. I don't think so. There will be armed forces of Ukraine, even whatever Ukraine will be left with. In the end, Russia will have the bases in the Black Sea coastline, means Odessa, and Nikolaev, and yeah. And as I already stated, Russians are in Kharkov area oblast now, they are in Dnipropetrovsk oblast, and they are in Sumy oblast. There you go. Donald Trump, well, the point is that there is a United Kingdom, which is this Chihuahua, which pretends that it is a bulldog or Rottweiler, which it is not even close, but they have this obsessive or compulsive disorder that they are still great power, which they are not. They're pathetic, actually. So we have now this European dynamics between Trump and all. But do not forget, all those excuses about Trump not being able to do something in the first term and Russia Gate and everything. First, you know what? He could have done things better already within his first term. He never tried. Okay, he was intimidated. Now, obviously, yeah, he gets better things done on the domestically, especially with some critical appointments such as Kash Patel or Tulsi Gabbard. But reality is, nobody now even knows now how the regime is being run. We know that there are SAS and MI6 people around him, around Zelensky 24/7. I don't know if that probably some CIA presence. These are the guys, they are incompetent militarily, and so they continue to do what they do always. False flags, political moves in terms of more of Ukrainian. It's West. It's combined West against Russia. He can talk whatever he wants, but Ukraine will do whatever she wants. And so now you have to only hope for the Russian air defense, which intercepts most of what is flies there. But no, Ukraine and Zelensky, especially, cornered rat is always dangerous. They will be ready to go to any land. Yeah, just blow up kindergarten, blow up the nuclear power station. So it's total general routine for especially combined West as of lately, which was doing false flags. And you saw yourself, for example, yesterday they were trying to break into the Belgorod Oblast. They were obviously repelled with the devastating consequences for them. Ukraine itself is a virtual state, and it only exists because of the support from the combined West. But it's same old, as I already stated, with some differences compared to the first term. But in reality is, as I already stated, you could see his arrogance and hubris when he was saying that, oh yeah, we're going to stop it in 24 hours. Did he stop it? No. Did he deliver it? No, of course not. He can't. But the point is, he remains a narcissist, flaming narcissist. He remains American exceptionalist. And as a result, he pretends that he wants to get along with Russia, but in reality, he views Russia as the enemy. He views Russia as merely a pawn in his plan, as much as the childish and kindergarten level that plan is, he still thinks that he is a great strategist. He had his ego blown up to the incredible proportions, especially by the virtue of winning the second term and getting the essentially what is the mandate because he got the popular vote. And then now I think once Tulsi was appointed and she made a lot of important statements about what was going on in terms of intel, and he gets to see the real intel, the things which are obviously classified. And for the United States intel, what is classified is how badly it's losing. That's what they were classifying. So have you heard him now talking about those millions of Russians being, he was given the real numbers. He was given real ratios. He was given the real industrial and economic output. And now when he look at this, good Lord, I'm not even the big figure, so to speak, on this chessboard. And he knows this. He had this moment of clarity when he stated Putin has all cards on his hands. Trump and the United States have none. There's nothing which they can play.